Well, as we were just discussing, the fiscal update included tax changes when it comes to short-term rentals. So in short, the changes would deny income tax deductions for expenses incurred to earn short-term rental income. The hope is that these changes would incentivize short-term rental operators to instead put those units on the long-term rental market. Will it be enough, though? Let's bring in Nikki Skinner, a realtor with Bosley Real Estate, for your perspective on this. Nikki, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me. Always a pleasure.
I wonder, first of all, when it comes to tax considerations like this, how much that comes into the equation when someone is out there looking for a unit, maybe, or thinking about, I could have this house and I could make a basement suite and I could make that into an Airbnb or whatever sort of short-term rental, and considering some of the tax implications of that.
So you said something very interesting. If someone's looking at a basement unit in their house, that is legally allowed to be an Airbnb. It's in your main residence, your primary residence. The tax implications there may not be that great, all things considered. I think what this is really targeting is people who own multiple units in condominiums for the most part, and are renting them out as a business. So these are not your primary residence, and technically they should not be on Airbnb in the first place.
Right. Okay. So when they're considering the equation there, these expenses, would it make it more doable, especially when you're thinking about just, the cost of condos in this city, especially right now with the high carrying costs, with mortgage rates as high as they are. Would that person would it make a big deal? I guess that's the point, right? Would this have a big impact if they were able to expense these claims versus not be able to claim these expenses?
So, like what kind of expenses are we talking about? So we're talking about, some of your fees and things that you pay, the expenses to carry it, cleaning costs. Let's say you have a cleaning person in all the time, furnishing it. So these things can add up if you're running a business. Honestly, I'm starting to think that it's not so much that the cost itself maybe is a disincentive. It's just, it's an added layer. And is it starting to become too much trouble? I'm wondering if people are going to start thinking, am I going to get caught?
Right.
Because really what it means is, are you going to be audited? And if that's when it gets really tricky, I think, in terms of taxes. I'm not an accountant. Please don't, I can't speak to the tax rules and regulations. But I think this is just an added layer, as I say, that maybe we're watching. The municipal rules say you're not supposed to be doing this. We're going to, remove one, maybe a small incentive, but from the federal perspective, it's something that they can do to put these properties back in the rental pool. And that's what they want, right? That is the goal here, absolutely. I am concerned there might be an added effect that is not as positive.
What are you thinking could happen here?
So if investors decide, I can't run my business anymore, and these are all business units, and with, as you say, mortgage rates where they are, the carrying costs, if it's too much to carry it, even with rents where they are, and rents will start coming down when there's more product on the market, then it becomes like, maybe I'll just sell it. So fine, now we have a flood of units on the market, which is good in some ways because for people who are looking to buy. But I got to be honest, a lot of these units that are on Airbnb, they're small. These aren't places that people are looking to live in long term. They are great rental units. So, but if you're not renting it as the current owner, and investors aren't buying rental units right now because they're not, who's going to be buying these? And then do we just have a flooded market and still don't have rental units? So that was a lot, but
no, that's really interesting. Well, it brings up some of the criticism too around just what has been constructed in this city. If it had been, serving more of that short-term rental idea versus a place that you can live and make it your home and live there long-term. An interesting component there that these are typically the smaller units.
They're built as rentals. Let's not kid ourselves, right? These are not built for end users to live in long term. This is That's how condo buildings get financed, is to have enough units for enough buyers paying enough money. And in a lot of cases, that is investors. They're not end users, and they're going to rent them out. The problem is it became, in certain buildings or for certain people, more attractive to do short-term rentals. And so definitely disincentivizing that is a good idea, to put these back into the rental pool, as long as they can continue to pay the mortgage.
It's interesting, too. I mean, the idea that maybe this could bring prices down a little bit in the market if there is a flood of condos that are out there. What is demand like right now that you're seeing for condos?
Not great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even though rents are so high, with mortgage rates going up, the costs are becoming prohibitive. So a lot of investors are already trying to get out of that market. Oh, we also have another factor of assignment sales that are becoming very popular. With the few investors who are still looking to buy, they're looking for assignment sales.
These are buildings that haven't been built yet.
Or are near completion.
Or near, yeah.
And sellers who bought them 5, 6, 7 years ago, when they first came out with the fancy selling proposal, right? And they paid $1,200 to $1,400 a square foot, and they have a mortgage that they were thinking 1%. They now have a 7% mortgage, and they can't close on that property. They cannot get financing, so they're trying to sell the contract before the unit closes. So these aren't on MLS. You don't see them there. So now investors are looking at that market because people are willing to take a loss. They are walking away from their money in some cases, or selling for less than what they paid for it, just to minimize their losses.
It's a really interesting moment we're in right now, Nikki.
It is. Yeah. Real estate is challenging right now. I'm not, there's a lot of factors for everybody to take into consideration,